Welcome to Seltzer Squad, the podcast about staying sober in the city, with your hosts, Kate Zander and Jess Valentine.
Nat, welcome to the pod.
Kate, I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so excited to tell you about our new sponsors for the new year.
Who is it?
So we have Brainwashed Coffee, and Brainwashed Coffee is amazing because 50% of all of the proceeds support addiction recovery. One of my sober treats this year was an espresso machine, so I'm really excited to use Brainwashed Coffee to make some lattes. Brainwashed has a 20% off discount when you use the code Seltzer Squad at checkout. It's brainwashedcoffeeco.com. Use the discount code at checkout, get 20% off. Let's all get caffeinated and crush our goals.
Yeah, stay caffeinated.
Jess, are you listening to any good books?
Right now, I'm actually listening to an Audible exclusive podcast.
Ooh, I'm listening to Blackout by Sarah Hepola.
Oh, I listened to that one back in the day.
I mean, I'm a huge proponent of Audible. I love listening to Quit Lit or really any book. But did you know, Squad, that you can use our discount code to get a free month of Audible? Meaning you get a free book if you sign up?
That's right. Just go to audibletrial.com/Seltzer Squad and get a free month on us. I actually just signed up myself using it. Hey, Kate.
Hi, Jess.
Hey, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm psyched to be here.
So, okay, so much to introduce. You are a poet, an author, a tarot reader, a podcaster. Am I forgetting anything else?
I mean, those are the main things.
A mom.
Yeah. I mean, God, it goes on, right? It's like life. But those are the big ones. Thank you.
So my fiance has read a bunch of your books, and recently she was reading How to Grow Up, and I was like, oh, what are you reading? And she was telling me some stories from your book and about your, recovery journey and stuff. And then I went to your Instagram, like, we have to have her on if she's willing. And then you were down. So thank you for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you. So basically, I mean, let's just get into it. Like, tell us a little bit of your story and how you got to where you are.
Sure. Oh my gosh. So should I just start when I had my first beer? I felt madly
whatever you want.
Alcohol. Is that how it starts?
Sure.
Oh my gosh. There was this girl I went to Catholic school with when I was in 6th or 7th grade, Kim. She was kind of like the tough, wild one. So I thought it's so funny how now you look back and the lives that everybody has lived have been so boring, but when you're like 12, you're like, that person's wild. Oh, their life is going to be so crazy cool. So Kim, she was a babysitter for this like unethical lady who she was just like, oh, I bet they'll give us beer. And I was like, that sounds great. I don't know. I mean, it's funny. There's always beer in my house. My birth father is actually an alcoholic. And, but it just never seemed attractive to me. It was like one of those, everything he sort of ingested was sort of gross. Like he liked to eat like tripe and like weird crab salad. He was like very Polish. And then he like drank lots of beer and it just all seemed disgusting. But then I knew it affected you. I knew that it changed you somehow. And I was really attracted to that. Not because I was like self-loathing or anything. I hear that a lot, that like I was really people being really uncomfortable in their own skin and things like that, which thankfully wasn't quite my story. I just love adventure and I love more, I'm very much of like, the recipe calls for 1 clove of garlic. Let's put a head of garlic in it, a little bit, right? A little of something's great, then a lot of it's awesome. So anyway, Kim got the beer. We went behind this apartment building and shared it. And I remember immediately feeling anxious that there would not be enough for both of us to have the thing happen, to get drunk. You basically wanted to get drunk. And we chugged it because we heard if you chug it, the thing happens to you faster. And, the thing, the transformation. So it was, I wouldn't say it was on after that. It was not that easy for me to get alcohol. I was pretty happy just smoking cigarettes, honestly, for a long time. And then I think my alcoholism really developed. There were lots of signs. Like when I was in high school, I was like a weekend binge drinker, but I was also, it was the 80s and I was goth and I had found this gang of freaks in Boston, like goths and punks and skaters and art fags. And I found like a fake ID at a Susie concert. Do you know what a score that was? The woman in the picture, you couldn't see her face. It It was like bangs down to her lip, like black lipstick, just like total kabuki makeup, which is what I look like. So, and I was just such a freak that I would bring it into the liquor store and they just look at me and be like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. Can't be two people who look this weird.
Oh my God.
Wait, and how old were you?
I was like 15 or 16. And so I would start there were like younger skaters who hung out. Everyone kind of found each other, pre-internet and all that stuff, in front of the Boston Public Library. And like, there were all these little skaters that would call me ID lady. They'd be like, ID lady, you get me a 40, And so I would buy everyone's liquor order, keep the change. It was like a part-time job basically. Mm-hmm. And I definitely drank alcoholically through high school. But the thing is, like, when you're punk or you have some sort of read on the culture that everything's bullshit, the consequences you don't care, right? You're like, so what if I got fired from my stupid job? That, you know what I mean? Like, because I didn't show up because I was hungover. Like, jobs are dumb, life is dumb, drinking's fun.
And you're young enough to have that like attitude, right? You don't care.
Yeah, and like when things happen, it's sort of a funny story, and I think I just kind of stayed in that realm, like into my 20s, throughout my 20s, coming out as queer, developing more of a feminist consciousness. And, even the world is even stupider than ever. And, finding bar culture in San Francisco, queer bar culture, where you're going out every night of the week. And why wouldn't you drink every night of the week, And then at some point, it's just full blown alcoholism, but you can't even recognize it because it's just the way you've been living for so long,
Yeah.
So,
and so are your friends.
Absolutely. So it's very normal, right? It's very super normal. I mean, I remember one time I was like, I'm going to try not to drink for a week. And my friend Kiki glared at me, ordered a whiskey sour, and it's like slammed it down on the counter in front of me and was just like, here's your whiskey sour. I was like, I guess I'm not going to do that then.
Yeah.
But, it was sort of like, the consequences build and they get harder to make build a joke around, sort of. And it's sort of that thing where like things that at one point were just like, well, I don't do that. It's like you do them and you're like, and you adjust and you're like, I'm doing that. I guess it's not that big of a deal to drink in the daytime or to snort heroin. I guess it's not, it's fine. It's like,
you always like move the line. You're like, I'll never cross that one, but then you move it. You're like, okay, it's fine. I just won't do that because that's when you have a problem. Actually, no, I'm here. I'm doing it. It's fine. So you move the line again.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. So I really had that experience. And then I kind of pulled a geographic, obviously if you drink and use drugs that much, it starts to affect your moods and your chemistry. So, I'm a pretty chipper person, but I was suddenly experiencing a lot of depression and a lot of just like really extreme mood swings and stuff. And I had this boyfriend who drank with me and did drugs with me. And we're like, we're going to go to LA. San Francisco is just terrible. It's like, that's our problem, And so in LA, I was completely removed from community. I used to, like I said, be out every night at events, at, punk discos, like whatever, queer events. Suddenly I'm really isolated in LA, but I'm drinking exactly the same, all by myself, like at my kitchen table, an entire bottle of wine every night, and then waking up in the day and feeling really crazy and out of control and being like, I'm not going to do that tonight. That felt really crazy. And then by the end of like the day, I was working at a bookstore. I'd be like, why did I think that was bad? Like, it's fine. Why was I so freaked out this morning? Like, that's scary. It's scary that I was so scared this morning. Like, I'm just going to get another bottle of wine because it's fine. And it got to the point that I was writing myself notes. Like it was like some sort of horror movie where I'm like, you will think that it's okay to buy wine. Remember not to, and then I'd find the note and I'd be like, you're crazy. Like, that's really crazy. And I would buy the wine.
That really hits home for me because I did the same thing. I would wake up with like the wildest anxiety from the wine hangover. And like, that it's wine, so it's acidic. Your stomach just feels like an acid pool and you would just feel like death. And then around like 3 or 4, you'd be able to kind of talk yourself out of it and be like, I just need another glass of wine.
Yeah,
and then I'll be fine. And I won't have a whole bottle tonight. And then the rinse, repeat.
Right. Tonight will be different.
Yeah, tonight will be different. So when was the turning point for you?
There was the pink dot.
What's the pink dot?
What's that?
Oh, the pink dot. I mean, this is, I mean, I know you can Postmates probably anything now, but this was like very unique to LA at the time, that you could call this place and be like, can you bring me like a bottle of pink champagne and a pack of Camel Lights? And I don't know. I mean, I guess like a little platter of pasta. Thank you. And then I would be like, just going on, get it in there before last call, or, the cutoff time. And then I was up until like 5 a.m. drinking, and then would get up and like teach. I had been given this, Chris Krause asked me to teach her diary class for her at the Art Center School of Design. And I would just go there like drunk. I would be still drunk, taking like public transit in LA to Pasadena from Hollywood to like teach these like kids about diary. Oh, it was so weird. It was so weird. Me out. I
know. God, that hits home.
Yeah. There were a couple of times where I would, same thing, I'd like wake up still drunk, and then I had to go to work and tattoo people, but I'm like, I need to get right. So I'm just going to have one cider. So I'd go to the bodega, because you can buy it at any time, and I would just have like a cider in like a coffee cup just to like stop the shakes. And it's just like,
so
maybe
real.
This is not good.
The shakes is scary. I remember getting the shakes and being like, ooh, this is like old man drunk.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Which like you are always so like protected from as like a cute white girl. Like, I'm not old man drunk. I'm just like doing this other thing.
I'm just white girl
like
wasted. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But now, whoa, the shakes, that's like scary stuff. So I don't even understand how, I mean, I had friends who were sober, and in program, and like my writing mentor who I worshiped was, and, I just was having a harder and harder time holding it together with my moods and my depression and stuff. And at one point I had tried to stop drinking for like a month and like bragged about it to everybody, so stupid. And I actually made it almost through the month, and then I didn't. I rewarded myself for like 3 weeks of sobriety and drank.
As one does.
Totally.
Kate knows about that.
Yeah. Oh, really? What's that story?
She celebrated her 1 year sober by drinking.
Yeah.
Right?
I was like, I'm cured. I'm going to start drinking again.
That's amazing. You're like, see, I'm not an alcoholic. I could put it down.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing like this person who got sober really young, who was like, sometimes I just think like, maybe I'm not an alcoholic. Like, I got sober so young. And then she thinks, well, if I wasn't an alcoholic, what would I go do? And you're like, get wasted. Like, I wish I wasn't an alcoholic so I could go drink alcoholically, basically. Mm-hmm. But so, I shared with this person that they were like, oh, how's your not drinking going? And I just like burst into tears, which happened to me. That happened to me anyway. I'm just an emotional person. But then it was happening to me a lot. And they were just like, I'm going to hook you up. And they just sort of brought me into recovery, and it stuck. I was so miserable and so unhappy. And I couldn't believe there were all these people with like glowing skin. Like, their skin looked so nice. And my skin was so splotchy and gross. And my hair was fucked up. It wasn't like holding color anymore. And I just looked gross. And all these people just looked so pretty. And I was just like, oh man, my vanity is going to save my life right now, I think, And it did. I was like, I want what they have. Nice skin.
And this was in LA, right?
Yeah.
No, now I'm back in San Francisco.
Got it.
That geographic didn't work out.
Got it. Okay.
So we went back to San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
from LA, and I got sober in San Francisco.
And how old were you at this point?
I think I was 32.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So did you find, because you're a writer,
32.
I feel like a lot of writers drink, right? Like, it goes hand in hand.
Oh yeah.
So how did that like affect your work?
It was hard for sure. What I realized is that, alcohol, at the point I stopped drinking, alcohol was not helping me write anymore. My writing was actually trash because I was so stunted. I just kept trying to like rewrite my book Valencia again, because in that book, I'm just like getting drunk and fucking people, and nothing had really changed. And I was like, people like that book. I'll write more about getting drunk, but there was nothing there. There was no story there. I'd written it already.
Yeah.
So I knew that drinking wasn't helping my writing at that point, but it's hard as a writer to just sit with your work and stick with it and write. It's like you have to confront your psyche and your self-doubt, and you get bored and you get distracted. And I found that when I was drinking and chain smoking while I was writing, that I got into that sort of boozy trance and I could just stay with the writing. So what I really found that was hard, it wasn't that the alcohol like made me creative, but it sort of tranced me out where I could stay focused. And with my brain more lively and less slowed down almost, it was hard for me. I just had to figure out how to sit through all of my shit, and I didn't have boozy bravado. I always was like, if anyone doesn't like this, it's because they aren't feminists, if you don't like my writing, there's something wrong with you, and I was like, oh, people might not like this because like maybe it's not good, I was like writing fiction for the first time. I was like, this might suck, I didn't have any bravado. I felt I was really vulnerable. But this thing happened. So I love the writer Eileen Miles very much, and they have been sober for decades. And I was reading their book. I was like in Boston. I was reading their book, Not Me, on the subway. And I realized, because I know them, I did the math from a reference in a poem. And I realized that Eileen had written that whole book, Not Me, sober. And I just started crying on the train. And I was just like, oh my God. And then I texted them. I was like, you wrote Not Me, sober. And I think that, I was one of their first sober. It gave me so much hope that I'd be able to do it. And yeah, it's harder. But it's just it's harder to stay present, and that's what was so fun about, drinking, is you didn't have to stay present. You could just flip off into wherever, into your own boozy experience, self-obsessed experience of yourself,
I think the self-doubt when you're sober is really loud. And for me, drinking like quieted that voice. So I can see, at least in your story, how it was easier for you to write because you didn't care. You didn't like, it turns that volume down, I think. And now it's like you have to show up as all of yourself, and there's no even like trap door to say like, well, I was half in the bag when I wrote it anyway. Like, even if you did need to talk it down or something, there's no like escape hatch.
Oh God, that is so true. And I always think about how like, the self-doubt and having to figure out how am I going to handle this self-doubt and not let it, impact my life in a bad way. It's like, I just think that maybe people who aren't alcoholics, like they just learn how to do that because they're like dealing with their life, like on life's terms a little bit more. But when you're drinking, you're like, oh, I'm just going to not deal with this insecurity for a decade and get really drunk and then have to become reacquainted with it in this sort of blindsiding way. It's like I didn't even know myself really. Like there's so much about my psychological makeup that I just didn't even know because I smothered it in alcohol. I remember going into a bar after I went to the Lexington Club, which was always such a hive of activity in San Francisco. It was so packed and so many people. And I walked in and I got this rush of anxiety. And I realized that I always had gotten that when I walked into a bar. And then I had a drink and it went away. And I was like, oh, is that social anxiety? Do I have social anxiety? I just thought that was the feeling of walking into a bar. And then I drank and I didn't think about it anymore, but then I was just at the bar, just totally overwhelmed by humanity. And, just had to, I don't know, like the volume was so up. It was just like, everything was so sharp, but it changes with time. I found, I mean, you have to do some work on yourself, but also I think it's like, I don't know, seeing for the first time with glasses, it's like, everything's too much and you get a headache. It's like, you get used to it.
Yeah, but being a writer is fucking badass. I don't know how you can do what you do. You have to sit with yourself literally in silence. So you are confronted from all angles with all of your garbage is there yelling at you. It's like amazing that you've been able to have such a huge impact on the world with your words as well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it is. It's really hard, but I love sharing that with people. Like I do workshops and stuff with other writers, and it's really nice to just let everybody know, like, how you hate yourself when you're sitting working on your writing, like that's normal.
Yeah.
Everybody does. It doesn't, you sit there and you're like, my writing sucks. Like, it doesn't mean that it actually sucks. It's just, you're doing something that is really psychologically challenging. I don't know. Some people just love it, I guess, I don't know that they're the majority.
I feel like writers are always so twisted. Like they feel emotions differently, It's like, it seems really hard to write a book.
Good ones.
Yeah.
Well, especially because you're mostly doing memoir style, right? Like you're not like a fiction writer. You like actually pouring your heart out. And we always say how when you get sober, you have to like feel your feelings, but like you really are feeling your feelings and then like telling everyone them. So I don't know, that's too vulnerable for me.
It's hard. I mean, I just have a weird makeup where it's actually harder. I feel more vulnerable writing fiction because fiction is like, in a sense, it's my imagination. It's my fantasy. So I'm like, look here, people, come and look at my fantasy. It's like, that feels more like weird, like I'm playing Barbies with these characters, come watch me. Whereas my life, I feel like I have some sort of philosophical belief in the importance of everybody's story and real life. And so I can sort of get bolstered by that. And I don't really care about people knowing my business. So I guess that's really what it's all about. But it is
guess
hard
that happens. Like when you share your story, it's like you get over it. Like the podcast, like we get over it. So I'm sure it's like a similar thing. Yeah.
Some of it is like it's a weird head fuck where it's like when I'm sitting there writing the work, it's just me, so I am relatively comfortable and I think in denial about the fact that it will ever be read by anybody else, and then it is. And then that's okay. Because I'm not sitting there in a room with somebody while they're reading my book usually, but I do perform things on stage a lot. And again, there's just something weird and detached about that where I'm performing, so there's all these little things that sort of help make it easier, I think. But I really do also think it's my nature that I tend to not really care.
Which is good. So, okay.
Yeah, it's very helpful.
So you have a podcast. It's relatively new, right? Didn't you just start it?
It just came out this week. I mean, we've been working on it for like a year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've been following the podcast, your Instagram for it for a minute. So, well, congratulations. That's so exciting. So tell us about your podcast.
So it's called Your Magic, and it's sort of an exploration and celebration of contemporary mysticism, sort of all the witchy stuff that is going on, that I feel like so many people are dabbling in or curious about, or just full-fledged, it's your life. We're just taking it from all angles. And the sort of centerpiece of it is I read tarot cards for like a celebrity, like a famous artist that we love. So the one that dropped this week was Brittany Howard, which was really cool. And we have an episode with like Phoebe Bridgers coming up and Roxanne Gay and just like folks that we love. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Fun.
So it's really cool. So I read their cards, and then we have a segment, and the segments are really varied. Like our first one, we talked to this Harvard astrophysicist who believes there's life on other planets and has some proof about it. So we talked about aliens, and we have other ones coming up where somebody teaches a new moon ritual, or one of our producers goes to MIT where they have a huge tarot collection.
Wow, that's cool.
And then we have somebody who does a spell. There's like a DIY spell that you can do at home in every episode too.
Cool.
Oh, I love that.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at Jess's eyes lighting up.
What's that?
I'm looking at your eyes lighting up, Jess. Yeah.
We
love spells.
So
I do, Jess. I see your pentagram on your palm.
Oh, I know.
So great. Your pentacle.
Well, it's funny because I didn't realize back in the day that Richard Ramirez also has that. So people just like, oh, you're obsessed with Richard Ramirez. And I do love true crime and serial killers and shit. I'm like, huh? And then I was like, oh, fuck, what an idiot. But whatever. But you also do.
That's hilarious though.
Right? I mean, it's kind of, it works. It's
iconic.
It checks out for me.
It totally works,
But also like you also do tarot readings for like plebes like us, right? Like you just DM you and you'll like.
Yeah, I read people's cards.
That's so fun. Yeah. So basically one of the reasons why I was so happy that you were willing to come on as a guest is, we're trying to have guests that aren't just like their whole life is their sobriety, which is a lot of our guests, which are great. Like they're a sobriety influencer. They're a sobriety, like a quit lit author. So it's nice to just interview people that are like doing things, and sobriety is just, it's part of them, part of their lives, but it doesn't overtake everything. And it's just nice to like show our listeners that are so scared, because we have a lot of early baby sobriety listeners, that it's like, you can still live your life and it doesn't have to be all about sobriety all of the time. It doesn't always have to be at the forefront of your brain. And you can just actually live a more successful, better life. So I don't know, all the stuff that you've got going on seems pretty fun. And I'm pretty excited to listen to your podcast and maybe get a reading.
Thank you. And
do you find that with your sobriety that it's easier to kind of access your gifts as far as tarot and all the mysticism is involved? Or when did that sort of come into the picture?
I mean, it's always been in the picture. I started reading cards when I was a teenager, so I've always sort of felt that I was a witch and did spells and read tarot cards. But yeah, I don't think that you can really have a true spiritual practice and be in active addiction and active alcoholism, because if you don't even know, like if I don't even know like my true personality, you know what I mean? Or my true psychology, like how can I know these more ephemeral, intuitive things? I think alcoholism actually really damages your intuition because you're having to override it all the time, I mean, I have this memory of I used to do this open mic called Sister Spit, and it was really fun. I would get wasted at it, because it was in a bar. And I remember sitting with this like giant pint of beer. I just drink giant pints of beer all night. We got them for free. And I remember this like sounds like one of those like 1930s AA, like Bill W. Like, then I saw a blinding light and the voice of God spoke to me. But I heard in my mind, it's time. It's time. And I knew what it meant. It meant it was time to stop drinking. I think about that all the time. And I wonder if I had stopped at that point, would it have gotten so bad? Would I have a different relationship with sobriety or alcohol? I don't know. I mean, there's so many alcoholics in my family. I don't really know that there was any other path for me, but I just remember that. And I was like a little shook. And then I just kept drinking. I was like, pretend that didn't happen. Weirdo, don't go crazy.
Totally.
It's like when nuns get the call.
So yeah, I don't.
But not.
Right. I got the call. And I was like, maybe in another 10 or 15 years.
Send that shit to voicemail.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, Kate, what is the number one sober tool that we always recommend?
Therapy.
And we have recently partnered with BetterHelp. Do you want to tell everyone what that's about?
So BetterHelp is an online mental health platform. Basically what it is, it's an app that you get access to therapists. So you take their short quiz, they match you with somebody in your area, and it's affordable private counseling for individuals and couples anytime, anywhere. You don't even have to leave your house. You don't even have to wear hard pants.
That is amazing.
And what are we giving our listeners?
10% off. Just go to betterhelp.com/seltzer squad.
Jess, what do people do if they want more Seltzer Squad?
Oh, well, it's pretty easy. All they have to do is become a Patreon.
Patreon? A patron? A Patronus?
A patron on our Patreon.
If you want to be a Princess FOMO, you'll get early access to our episodes every Wednesday instead of Friday. If you want to subscribe to our middle tier, Former Hot Mess, you will receive the bonus monthly audio episode and early access to episodes. And if you indeed are the slickest bitch around, you will get early access, monthly bonus episodes, and you will be able to see all of our episodes now in video format.
This is truly a labor of love, and we want to keep it going. So help support us at patreon.com/seltzer squad. So good.
But all this cool stuff, like I wouldn't have a podcast right now if I was drinking. Like, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't, no one would want to work with you. Like you can't keep it together. I mean, I remember when, I did have to start calling in sick to work because I was too hungover, or I couldn't stop crying. Remember I called in sick to work once because I just couldn't stop sobbing. It was after a Coke bender. And, stuff like that and missing, I always sort of like, and again, like, job schmob, who cares? But then I always had this other work that was my passion, which was literary events and things like that. And I started kind of calling in sick to these literary events. And I was like, and there's that bottom under the bottom. And then you're just like, okay, I guess I just call in the things I love that show up for my life now. Okay.
Like not, you stop showing up for yourself. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Okay. I think we're at the rapid fire.
We're at rapid fire. Let me pull them up.
Portion.
That sounds fun.
So
we just have a couple of questions that we like to ask people. It's just fun, dumb shit.
Cool.
Okay. What is your favorite brand of seltzer or alcohol-free beverage?
Okay. I mean, I just default to LaCroix like everybody does, but I also really love a shrub,
Ooh.
What's that?
A shrub. They're like
vinegary.
They're like these apple cider vinegar, like, I don't know. I think they're just
you would love that, Kate.
All right. I'm into it.
You love kombucha.
Yeah.
I do.
Love a shrub. Yeah.
Making a
I used to make cocktails when I was bartending with
would.
shrubs. Yeah.
Really? Yeah. They got popular for a minute. And then for me, they just kind of hung around because I don't drink. So I'm like, ooh, something that I can, keep drinking.
Yeah. That's not just water.
Totally. I also really love that seed lip. I really like seed lip. I know it's like $1 million a bottle. Like a bottle's like $50, which like whatever. Did I spend that much on alcohol when I was drinking? Hell yeah. And cocaine and, but now I'm like, what? $50, but it's delicious and interesting tasting. And I don't really like fake beers. I just don't enjoy the taste. I never drank beer because I thought it tasted good. You know what I mean? But somebody brought, a sober friend brought to my house once at a party, hoppy waters. I think it's like Lagunitas makes hoppy water, and it's like seltzer that's like, it's not fake beer. It's just a little hoppy. And it just was sort of interesting, So I liked that.
I like the seed lips. I actually just ordered the 3-pack and they were having a special. So I think it was like $90. But like you said, it's true. I would always have like $100 worth of Coke on me anyway. So it's
of course
it's fine. And it's still in my kitchen. It's totally like fine. I didn't drink it in one night.
I'm inspired by you and I'm going to get it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just
right.
It's just,
totally.
I bought like
it
a bunch of
sticks around for a little while.
Yeah, like I still have it. I bought like a bunch of cute like coupe glasses. I'm like, I'm gonna get like a little bar cart for like my sober spirits and stuff. I got like, dumbass, like, I mean, I haven't done it yet, but it's on my list of shit to do.
Yeah, I like it.
I've been into making mocktails with like, what the fuck, like egg whites and stuff. Like I'm acting like a little coctologist again.
I love that. A moctologist.
Yeah. But anyway, so Kate, sorry.
I gotta try hoppy water and shrubs. I wrote
you
both
would
of those
totally
things down.
love shrubs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can just make them at home. They're super fun. Sometimes you can find like mixers for them places, but you can just kind of whip stuff up on your own.
Yeah, I love that. I'm into that. Okay, our number one question that we get asked all the time by people multiple times a day is, how do you make friends in sobriety? Where do you find them? How do you get them?
Right. I mean, I am really lucky that I kept a lot of my friends from before I was sober because they either weren't alcoholics or they had become sober themselves. I think that it's like you just have to trust that it's going to work itself out. It's really hard when you're newly sober. It's like, that is such a terrifying thing. I mean, when I first got sober, I was like, everything's going to be totally the same. I'm just not going to drink. Right. And it just didn't work. Like it didn't work for me to be in bars every night with drunk people. And that was really hard. And I had to mourn like losing these friendships. And, I was doing a lot of things like staying home a lot, watching movies. I'm like, what a loser. I can't believe I just stay home and watch movies. I guess this is what sober people do. But again, it's like, it's better than the alternative, So I think you just sort of stay open and you find that like, you're not the person who you are when you're just get sober, you're going to be a very different person at the end of the year. So you're going to make new friends for your new personality that fit with your new person, your new life, your new interests, and they just happen,
That's a good point.
So I guess being in a queer community is easy, I think, to meet a lot of people, being in a writer's community. So, what are your communities? What communities do you want to be in? Things to think about.
Yeah. It's funny because we don't even think about hobbies when we get sober, right? Like it's like, what do I even like to do? I always tell people like, write a list down of shit that you even like to do and then start there.
Yeah. And having to relearn to do these things sober, like singing karaoke sober, dancing sober, having sex sober, all of these things that it's so, you get so liberated to do, when you're drunk, you have to relearn. But then it's
true.
Nothing,
And like the first time you do it, like the first time you have sober sex and then you rip that Band-Aid off, you're fine. And the first time you dance sober, you rip that Band-Aid and then everything's fine. It's like, oh, why was I so scared? But you're just used to having that crutch. And like you were saying earlier about mourning your old life, mourning your old like friends and stuff. We always try to like tell people that you're like, it's okay to like lay in bed eating Domino's, watching Netflix, the first 3 months that you're getting sober. Like, that's fine. You're not a loser.
Yes.
You're just, it's going to work itself out. But
it's hard to remember that though.
Absolutely.
I know.
It's like you don't even understand it's like you don't even understand the damage that you've done to your body, your psyche, your chemicals, your brain chemistry. It's like you're healing. It's like I would remember, that kind of, I don't know if you've ever gotten a massage and then like you feel almost a little sick from it afterwards, like you didn't drink the water, like
from the toxins.
Yeah. Like it was so interesting. I had that would happen to me all the time in early sobriety. I would just suddenly take ill in this funny, vague way where I just wanted to go lay down and I just felt weird. And I was like detoxing so heavily. So it's okay. Yeah, it's so okay to just lay in bed and eat comfort food and watch shows. Like you're cocooning, and then you're gonna be a different person at the end of it all.
It's like
a butterfly.
Totally. All right. What are some?
I can't believe I used a butterfly metaphor. Oh, shoot.
It's okay.
Totally.
It's okay. This is a safe space. No judgment.
Okay. What are some of your tools and resources that you can share for sobriety related or non-sobriety related that kind of helped you during your process of getting sober?
Okay, cool. I mean, I do want to say that like I would not have gotten sober without a 12-step program. That's absolutely the way I got sober. And they're terrifying for various reasons. And there's always a million reasons why you're like, it's not for me. But, you know, for me, I was like, most alcoholics don't get sober. Like most people who have alcoholism don't get sober. Most people who even go to 12-step programs don't stay in them. The odds are, but the 12-step programs actually have the highest rate of getting sober and staying sober. So I was just like, I like those odds. I feel fucking desperate. I'm going to do that. So, you know, and then just being, having other friends who are sober, acquaintances. I love how sober people are so, you know, in or out of a program, like so ready to help another sober person, you know? So always feel like if there's anyone in your radar that's sober, even if you don't know them that much, like they'll talk to you all about it. Like they will be your friend about it, you know? And that's like a miracle. Like that really can just restore your faith in humanity, is just to see how sober people really get it. They get what you're going through and they'll help you out. So that's really great. What else? I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm trying, you know, I wasn't medicated until I was maybe like 10 years. So I don't know, maybe like 8 years sober. I got medicated. I got on some Lexapro, and that was really cool. I didn't realize that I had an anxiety disorder. You know, it's again, it's like just learning about yourself. So I feel like just giving yourself whatever you might need in any moment and not judging yourself for needing it. Just be like, I had this funny experience once where I was like, you know, 10 years, I was like 10 years sober or something. I was hanging out with these two people who I thought were so cool, but they were like totally on so much drugs, but they were making it look kind of okay, you know? And like, I was like, I couldn't really hang out with them because I wasn't on drugs, but then like we were all artists, so I could hang out with them a little bit. And I remember one of them saying, I'm just a hedonist. And I was like so jealous. I was like, I want to be a hedonist. Like, that sounds so cool. And then I was like, wait, I am a hedonist. Like, the idea of being a hedonist is that you are pleasure seeking. You know, it's like, if drugs made me feel rad, I'd still be on them. The whole point is that they stop feeling good and you keep doing them because you're fucked, like that you fucked yourself up. So it was so nice to remember, like, oh, I am a hedonist and I am chasing pleasure, and what's pleasurable for me has changed. So be a hedonist, you know, chase what is pleasurable, whatever stupid thing. I love spas. I mean, it's the biggest heartache of pandemic is I can't go to a Korean spa. Love them.
Same.
I love massages. Yeah. I started spending the money I wasn't spending on drinks and cocaine on skincare products. And now I love that. I'm obsessed. So you'll figure out what you like, you know, just go towards whatever feels like it might help you. If you think something might help you, do it. Go do yoga like everybody else.
I love that. And then lastly, tell us some of the best things that you've noticed since you've gotten sober, because I think sometimes it's like you don't even realize it's happening, and then all of a sudden you take a look back and it's like, whoa, I've been sober for a whole year. All this goodness has come into my life, and you don't really directly correlate it until you kind of take a minute to reflect.
It's really true. You know, one thing we were talking about friendships, the friendships that stuck around are so great because I got to show up for people in a different way. I have a really close friend who, you know, is the friend who, like, Al-Anonically, all her friends are like drug addicts, but she's not. She's just like the Al-Anon pal, you know? And so, like, it's so terrible for her because you're just like hanging out, having a great time until it's time to do drugs. And then you sort of like ditch her in this way. And so you don't think you're doing that, but you are. So this friend, you know, she lost, when I was a few months sober, she lost her brother to a drug overdose. And you know, I got to fucking be there with her in a really real way, in a really profoundly real way, because I was dealing with what that really means, right? If I was using, I don't know how I would have been able to be there for her. That would have stressed me out, you know? So, and I'm sure I was imperfect, but she's still my best friend, and I've been sober almost 18 years. So yeah, I have a kid. Yeah.
Your sobriety is basically of age. Like, that's crazy.
I know, right? Still not legal to drink. Almost can play bingo.
Yeah. So, okay. Where can everyone find you on all the places, all the things?
How do they book your services?
Yeah, let us know everything.
Well, first and foremost, you should definitely listen to our podcast. It's called Your Magic. It's on Spotify. You can just find it, Your Magic. Follow us there. Our Instagram handle is This Is Your Magic on Instagram. So follow us there. And if you want our newsletter, we're not just a podcast. We're sort of envisioning a larger mystical sort of like media project. We do a really cool newsletter that we send out once a week. If you go to, I believe our website's thisisyourmagic.com. You can just sign up for our newsletter and we send it to you once a week. And there's really cool stuff. Like this week, we had an interview with like Beth Ditto about being a Pisces. So there's fun stuff in it. And then as for books,
awesome.
Anywhere books are sold. Yeah.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thank you guys. It's so fun to talk about this stuff. Yeah. Thank you.
Really
Thanks
appreciate your time. Thank you.
Well, have a good one and we'll hopefully talk to you soon.
Okay, cool. Take care.
Bye, Michelle.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Until we meet again, Jess.
Be nice to yourself.
And don't forget,
hangovers suck.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Every review helps other listeners find us. Music by Dead Go West. Art by Kate Sander. For show notes and resources, check out seltzersquad.com.